Right. We'll go ahead and get going. Hopefully we'll have a few more here Thursday night. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Todd Quick. I'm on to the next page. I actually started with Lahana Police Department as a reserve officer in 1997. At one time, we had almost half the department that started out as reserve. It's a good program, and you get actually certified as a reserve officer, and then you can come out and work with them, still maintaining your full-time job, because it is a volunteer job. And then, like me, I saw it as a career opportunity and decided to go forward and get the education and do that. It's a great place to start. Mitch?
And I'm Mitch Gorzinski. I've been here since 2015. Got out of the Marine Corps in 15 and went to the Law Academy here at OJC, and then decided that Lahana was a good place to be. So I was able to stick around here for this long, and I've been with the Lahana Police Department the whole time, my whole law enforcement career. And so far it's been good. I plan to stay here as long as they'll let me stay.
Feel free to ask any questions. We'll really have a good question and answering session at the end too if you like. But anytime, feel free to ask any questions. All right, so why are we here? This is why we started these academies, so we can have better community relations. You see a lot of stuff out on Facebook that they think the police did this or the police did that. And this is your opportunity to ask us questions and us to show you what we have to do on a daily basis and sometimes why we have to do things the way we do. So I answered the second bullet there too, so you guys get an insight on what we do. And then the most important one, we want to create partnerships with everybody. It's going to improve communication and then help us better serve the community. Facebook is a wonderful thing, people can get out there, but I like it a lot better if you know us and you can come talk to us and ask us things instead of just throw out a comment and not be able to get an answer back, things like that. All right, so just give you a brief history of how we got here. There's just some old pictures, an old flyer for Lahana, and then City Hall that was built in 1902.
Is that the same location it's at now?
I honestly don't know. I have to find out. So remind me, Mitch. I gotta find that out.
I don't think it's too far away. I think that's still 3rd Street there. That's just dirt.
And then a little law enforcement or notable chiefs. Our first town marshal was Tom Shea in 1877. And then we had the legendary Bat Masterson in 1884. And for some reason, Doc Holliday was brought in shortly after that to run Bat out of town. Don't know what he did. We haven't been able to find any more on that. And then our history got lost from 1892 to 1971. So if anybody has find anything, let us know. We'll be glad to add that in there. That's all we could find.
Yeah, why is Bat Masterson legendary? I don't know who he is.
Okay, legendary gunfighter. You've heard of Wyatt Earp?
Yeah.
Maybe you haven't?
Okay.
He was friends with Wyatt Earp.
Okay.
Some of those, yeah.
Got it.
If you watch the Wyatt Earp with Kurt Russell,
Okay.
Bat's really portrayed in there.
Okay.
All right, our first marshal in police uniform was in 1903. Our patch on our uniforms has a picture of the train, and it says 1903 on it. That's why we picked 1903. The town was actually founded in, 1881, but 1903, we know a uniformed marshal came out on the street. And then we had some departments of public safety. In 1964, it was Jack Fowler. And for those of you that doesn't know what a Department of Public Safety is, Jack Fowler would have been the head boss over the police department and the fire department. So they wouldn't have a police chief or a fire chief, they would just have a director of public safety. In 1971, Laverne Eubank did that, same job. And then in 1983, Charles Whip, he was actually the police chief. So he was here from 83 to 2003, 20 years. As long as the town will have me and the officers, I would love to beat his record, as long as I'm still carrying the department on, we're growing and doing things we should. And in 03, they went back to a public safety, and Bill Jackson was the director. Officially on the books, he still is director, but in 2005, they made me the police chief, and I've pretty much have been doing that since then.
So do you report to Bill as your boss?
I did right at first in 2000, the first part of 2005, because I was just an operations captain at the time, but once they made me police chief, then I reported to the city manager at that time. All right, so over the years, we've had several dedicated officers and reserve officers that serve this community. Remind me to bring the books that Shirley Benz made. So she made some great books you guys can check out, and she's got a lot of history in there. In 1982, Lahana formed Crime Stoppers. We're trying to work on that again with council's help and get that going. And if you don't know what Crime Stoppers is, it's an organization, and when you join that, they give money out for people who give tips that lead to arrests and prosecution. So it really helps us solve some of the crimes that we may have trouble with. In 1982, the Sons of Silence motorcycle gang regional president, Terry L. Knoll, was arrested for carrying a concealed weapon in Lahana. In 83, Lahana received their first DUI grant in the amount of $15,706. I remember that grant. I was probably a junior or senior in high school at that time. And I remember the DUI laws got very strict in, which is a good thing, because we don't want people getting intoxicated and causing wrecks and injuring or killing people. But I do remember the officers in Lahana who were really stopping everything and trying to take advantage of that grant.
What does that money go for? What is the grant used for?
We got one later, I hope's in here. I'm just guessing on this, but it can go, the one we got can pay for wages, for overtime shifts. It can pay for PBTs, which is a preliminary breath tester that we use out in the field investigating any kind of equipment related to being able to arrest more DUIs. All right, 85 had their first canine division, and it was formed by Sergeant Kurt Miller and his 5-year-old German Shepherd named Nick. And then again in 85 also, the PD received their first annual Fleet Safety Award from the Colorado Intergovernmental Risk Sharing Agency. No accidents is what you get those for. I think we've gotten them once or twice since I've been chief. And then in 1989, they received a traffic school. And I don't know a lot about that. At that time, I wasn't with the police department or anything, but I'm pretty sure it was to help people, especially in Muni, that got tickets. They could go to the traffic school and probably get their tickets deferred. And then in 2002, we received a SWAT vehicle from a donation by Raton Police Department and the Lahana Police Reserves. So they had to pay a little money to fix that up. And we had kind of an ad hoc SWAT team back then. And I'm trying to think of when it was. I started in 2001, so it was probably 99. We actually did some drug raids. We had a drug task force headed by Gary Armitage. And he worked for several months getting this all put together, and we took care of it in one day. We had 8 search warrants to conduct on houses, and we arrested over 80 people with warrants. And that was all because of Gary's work, and Pueblo SWAT come down and helped. And I got to help with that. I think it was before I was on full-time, so it was before 2001 that they actually started some of that. But we got the SWAT vehicle after that. In 2006, we got a thermal imager from Home Security. Where that was a big help is we used it one night. We had a person that had walked away from the nursing home, and there was a bunch of weeds out there. Evergreen Gardens, if everybody knows where that one is in town. And they walked out into those weeds and stuff, and you could look in there and see a heat signature and find them. It was also valuable in helping if somebody ran from us and got out in an area like that. It was a great tool that we got on a grant. In 7, that's the one I was involved in. We got a DUI grant for CDOT. We decided instead of paying for overtime, we bought us a very good preliminary breath detectors, which really helped. In 07, we got a grant for the mobile command trailer. I don't know if some of you have seen that. We had it out at Police in the Park. Fortunately, we haven't had to use it but for 2 or 3 incidents since we got it in 2007. We use it more for special events and things like that. But it was used for the county on recovering somebody that had been killed down south years before, and they were recovering the body. Unfortunately, we had to use it for a morgue at a grounding over at Lake to the corner to get out there because it did have AC and was so cool inside. We got that grant, and that grant was between us and Otero County Sheriff's Office. Then in 2007, Sergeant Dave Gaskell brought the canine program back to Lahana with Jester, and that was the name of the dog. And all the equipment and Jester was funded by community donations. So that really helps. I'll talk a little more here in just a minute on the next slide about our current one. But the only thing the city of Lahana puts into the canine program is the car and the officer's wages. Everything else, our great citizens donate to us. We also get the contracts at the school for doing the drug sniffs during the school year, so that helps. Very minimal expense to the taxpayers for such a great program. 2008, Sheriff Pete Johnson and I formed a SWAT team for La Junta. It started out very well. We also were able to get a SWAT truck. We still have that. It's called a response vehicle now, that big black pickup with the big box that pulls the trailer. Great thing. We trained and trained. We had a great team. We didn't get hardly any calls. I think we got one in those years. It started out, we had everybody coming to train, and then the next training session, there was a few less. Finally, at the last training, when we decided to call it, it was the sheriff and I, Dave Gaskell, his undersheriff Ken Kimsey, and Sean Mobley, who was a sergeant for us at that time, who's Sheriff Mobley now. We decided we had to call it. It was just, the officers lost interest in it. 2009, we got another grant, $50,000 for safety equipment. That was gear for the SWAT team, things like that, body armor. Great thing back in those years was they had a Homeland Security grant. And it looked like it was something that was going to stick around forever. And that was another reason it went away. That helped us say, hey, we can't do it anymore too. Because you have to replace all that gear those officers wear no more than every 5 years. And it was about $3,400 then per officer. Once that went away, there was no more money to be able to afford that kind of equipment. So that also. 2011, Vince Breaker, who runs the academy now, got us a grant from state liquor enforcement so we could help enforce liquor. Bought a recording device, so there was somebody under the age of 21 into the liquor store, preferably 18, unless parents gave us a written permission, and see if they could buy. Part of that was a recording device that would record, what we said during the transactions. Also in 2011, we got very interested in hunters education as a department, and we still teach it to this day. So there's, 5 or 6 of us left. We try to have 1 or 2 hunters education classes per year for the community. We are allowed to charge $10 a student for that. We chose not to do that. We want to donate our time and efforts to the citizens and the kids and promote safer hunting and also safer firearms handling. 2023, Corporal Triana and K9 Odin. I don't know if anybody's got to see him yet. He's not a bite dog, which Gaskells were bite dogs, which makes it a lot easier. There's a little less training. We still train quite a bit for drugs. He sniffs for drugs, and he also is a tracker. He can track for evidence, or he can track for lost people, things like that. Right now, he's already finished his training. It's always ongoing, but he's finished his training where the trainer said, okay, you're good to go out and do drugs. He's still working on the tracking. That takes a little longer. To be able to pass that, finally, he has to be able to do a 3-mile track that is 48 hours old.
Wow.
So,
What do bite dogs do?
they're called police protection dogs. They're the ones, I don't know if you see on TV, they're holding them back and they'll run out and bite somebody and take them down, hang onto an arm, hang onto a leg. There's a lot of extra training, a lot of liability on them. And they are great if you have the calls for them.
Yeah.
But just in La Junta, thank goodness we don't.